It's the weekend edition of the program. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. As always, the goons are right here with me.
And indeed, we're grateful for safe landing. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Koka.
That's what you get for being called a goon. It just messes with your head like, what? I'm not a goon. But it's Friday right here. And as we always say, thank God it's Friday. What a week it's been. Welcome to your perfect day starter, the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikule. So what's up? What's going on, guys? Well, what state are you from?
What
right
has
now?
That got to do with
because
what we
Because
have?
it might change in the coming months if the approval or if the proposal to create 31 new states, if it flies through, then your states, all of you say, I'm from Lagos. It might be, I'm from Lagoon State or something.
Or if you're from Kaduna, you may be just from New Kaduna State.
Right.
If that goes through, right?
It's an unpopular opinion, but I don't think we need states. The ones we're dealing with, states. We need more states, in my view, because they say our view is not important. We have 36 states. Whoever said that? Wait, no. Who said our view is not important? As journalists, you have to just stay out of it, state the fact, and leave it as it is. All lives matter. All views matter. Our votes matter, so our views matter. What I'm saying in essence is that I just like all of us, we follow how the states perform year in, year out. And I keep saying that if states were companies in Nigeria, over 25 of them would have gone belly up, they would have gone bankrupt, they won't be able to function as states. So what is this thing about creating more states? Across South, North, everywhere, people are pushing for the creation of states. But, you know, the legislators will sit on these things and see how it plays out. But in terms of viability, I was interviewing someone and I said, what is it that you think you have that you need state created? They said, let's create it first. No. I don't know, but it doesn't, for me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, at least not now. Maybe another 50 years we can think of creating states. Let's get the ones we have working first.
Exactly, Jeffrey. I'm wondering what is the logic behind it? Is it a more even, what we call equitable distribution of resources, a more even division of the proverbial Nigerian national cake, such that it will get further right down to the middle, to the grassroots? But from when Nigeria was, divided into regions up until we became 12 states, 19 states, and until 36 states, what are the success stories? As far back as the time of the regions was when Nigeria was described as most prosperous, when we had the groundnut pyramids, when we had, all of those monuments, when oil was not so much a curse, but brought in revenue for the well-being of the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But the law of diminishing returns seemed to have set in as the country supposedly grew, but was not particularly growing in maturity and in the management of its resources. So we have 36 states now. How accountable, are the chief executives of those states, and talk about the resources that have been available to them in the last couple of years of our very recent democracy. How are the people better for it? A very, very unpopular opinion. Do we need additional states at this time, or we need better management of our resources?
I like that last line. Well, we know that the states are in debt naturally. So what happens when if the states are created, will they share the debt? Because if we take the example of, the creation of Taraba and Adamawa from Gongola, they split north and south. So if that were to be the case, will they split the debts in half? Or someone will say, no, you've been governor. Your region has been governor ever since the state started.
So you continue with the debt.
Continue with the debt. Let us start on a clean slate.
As a matter of fact, there's name on the debts is the old state.
There you go. So it doesn't even belong to anybody. But I know that there's been that debate around whether or not the state distribution are equitable. By the way, the new creation or the new proposal, right, it still doesn't make it equitable in that sense. So if we say that the North Central had 6 states and the FCT before now, the plan is to add 6 more states. It's to the North Central, so that's going to be 12 states and the FCT in the North Central.
if we said that Northeast had 6, plan is to add 4, so that's 10. 10 is not the same as 12. And it goes all the way up.
Northwest has 7 right now. They are the lead.
They're in the lead.
Yeah,
no, I said Northeast has 6. So the plan is to give them 4 more. So that's 10.
Oh,
North
really?
Central, 6, and the FCT plan is to give them 6.
Southeast? That's the
that's where I'm headed.
Southeast, let's say.
That's 5. The plan, what do you expect Southeast to get?
I've maybe
7, right?
If it talks about being equitable, let's just share it everybody equally.
Southeast is the proposal is to give Southeast extra 5.
Extra 5
to make it 10.
And you know, we were talking the other day, and someone said one state in the federation is bigger than the entire Southeast. So what exactly are we doing when we are creating additional 5 states?
You know, when I look at all of these things, another thing that crossed my mind, there's a state that is just balling in each administration. They ball, literally. And they don't argue with you, but they will still ball in the next administration. Ogun State.
Really?
When it comes to appointment, you know Ogun State has 4 ministers.
Oh, I see.
The whole of South is like 5 or so.
You have to give it to Ogun State.
Ogun State is balling.
Yeah. I agree.
I agree. Olusegun Obasanjo, Eden Sheneko, who else? Yemi Osinbajo. You see where I'm going with that? And then,
it could be more.
If you go to all the administration, count how many people are coming from Ogun State. In fact, some people now, when they finish with Lagos, they are heading back to Ogun State to see how.
That's where they're actually from.
Ogun State is balling, literally.
So, are you saying that perhaps they will get more states, or they're not bothered about state creation?
Ogun State is just not going to say anything, but you just know things will come.
We'll see how it goes. It has to pass through normal 2/3, the requirement. But it's quite interesting. So. Ijebu from Ogun State. I understand Lagoon is coming from Lagos. I'm not sure.
Lagoon is he island?
I'm not even sure what it is right now. But we're here to give you all of the breakdown, the process. It's part of the Constitution review proposal. So whether this will fly through or not, we do not know, guys.
Okay, let's get straight to what we're talking about today. I like this interesting beginning of all these states, but that's not what we're talking about today on the program. Of course, we will be talking about these issues about fire outbreaks, whether it's trucks or outbreaks at buildings and all of that. That is going to be the first port of call, because we've lost a couple of people in the last few weeks as far as the incident of fire, from articulated vehicles veering off or falling off the road to all sorts of needless, countless deaths that has occurred. What is going on? What should we do as citizens? And what are the authorities doing? That is going to be the focus of our conversation in the very first segment.
And of course, up next, it's a Friday part of an edition of the program. So we'll be bringing you tips of how to better manage your PCs or your devices, whatever your devices are, such that you're not buying another within the next 2 years. So we'll bring you tips about how to effectively manage your devices, your computers, your iPhones, your Androids, and every other device that you may have.
Oh, yes. So connecting to Wi-Fi here and there, what is the effect of it? We got you on the show this morning, but that's not all. I know someone said she got in trouble for calling medication drugs in a part of the world, but we'll be talking about how to combat, well, we're still calling drugs here. Okay, drugs does not mean hard drugs alone in this part of the world, but more importantly, we'll talk about how to combat fake drugs, because the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has intensified its crackdown on substandard and expired drugs, with numerous busts in recent months. So we have a DG, the Director General of the agency, joining us on the show to shed more light on the work that is being done and how you can be a part of it as well.
And of course, that will not be all. With Africa trying to expand and build bigger and more urban centers, we'll be talking about how these governments and institutions, as well as the private sector, and all of us can build livable cities with all of the infrastructure, gas lines, water lines, all of the lines. It's going to be an interesting convo right here on the program as well.
And besides medication, you know that there's also something else that is very effective medicine for your soul. It's laughter. And so we'll be bringing in someone who would do just that for your ribs this morning and make you a little healthier. So stay with us for that chat with MC, guess what his name is? MC Medikal. So he brings some good medicine for your souls.
I thought his name was MC Guess What. Say, what's your name?
But that's
guess
a good
what?
name, by the way.
No, what's your name? Guess what? No, I mean, what is your name? No, guess what? I'm like, you know what? Just move. He'll be our guest on the show, MC Medikal. You can be a part of the show as always, hashtag CTV Morning Brief, but more importantly, we're big on WhatsApp, so you can always send us messages, videos, pictures, whatever is happening around you. That is the fastest way to reach us, or reach Bukola, depending on who you're trying to reach on the show.
Or reach Kari and Jeffrey as well.
Whichever, just send only videos and messages, whatever it is you're sending. By the way, let's head to the papers. The dailies, what are they saying? We'll begin with the Guardian newspaper. And the Guardian is leading with lawmakers push for 31 new states amid 11.47 trillion naira debt by existing ones. So, guys, I think we've commented on this a lot. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, leads that Committee on Constitutional Review. And so all of these proposals that are coming, it's been in the works, even when the national confab under President Goodluck Jonathan, former President Goodluck Jonathan, these were also proposed. Some states were proposed, but let's see how far this will fly, because people really believe that if they have their own states, things are going to work for them. But when I look at the numbers, I doubt very much.
And it's reminiscent of the advocacy for the creation of additional local governments, and for which, Lagos, many years back, I believe under the administration of this current president, when he was governor of Lagos State, ran into, locked horns rather with the federal government. But if you looked at those LCDAs many years down the line, to what extent can we say that indeed, development has come to those states in the measure that we, require for the improvement of human capital development? Talk about primary healthcare centers, talk about infrastructure. What we see is the same narrative of, over concentration on the capital parts of the city and the more urban parts of the city in terms of development. And you could, go further down, other states of the Federation as well. So it's reminiscent or is similar to the conversation on the advocacy for additional states creation. There is, for those who are proponents of it, they must present more superior arguments to justify state creation, particularly amid the burgeoning debt that the current executives, have brought upon their states. So, what else do we have?
So we'll go over Kaido to take the next one, but just before we leave the Guardian, there's fresh inflation concern as MPA raises port charges by 15%. There's also that cartoon that says gunmen in Southeast now dictating funeral terms. So if you get to the pages of the Guardian newspaper, you get to see all of these very, some of them very troubling and disturbing stories. Kyrie.
Certainly. Well, let's head over to This Nigeria. This Nigeria also leads with a similar story. Knocks Kudos trail proposed creation of 31 additional states. It's myopic, not sustainable. That's how This Nigeria is leading as well this morning. But who's saying it's myopic? Who's saying it's not sustainable? Who's saying it's unenviable? Well, Wazakome Adegborua, CSO's condemn Reps Committee proposal. This is a welcome development, says rights activists, as Ariwa others make special case for Southeast. It's quite interesting because I know during that confab you mentioned, Jeffrey, yes, they proposed going back to the old national anthem, which has now come to life now. But another thing that was proposed was a change of Nigeria's name to Nigerian. So it's kind of like Nigeria spelled backwards or pronounced backwards. By the way, that was proposed by Professor Michael Zekome, as well as the, going back to the old national anthem. So what do they have against this one, the 31 additional states? Perhaps you find more details on the inside pages. But I'm sure it's not far-fetched from some of the points we have raised as well. There's the pros, certainly the cons. And just one more for you on the front page of This Nigeria. And it's coming, well, as a result of a tolling for federal highways, major federal highways in the country. You see, TUC opposes FG's proposed toll gate on federal roads, accuses government of implementing policies without engaging stakeholders. For example, I think the Kefi Road all the way to Makurdi, a portion of it is to be tolled now from 500 naira for salon cars to 1,500 naira. And they said that Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is coming to maybe Stream C or Stream 3. So these are reactions to the tolling. Way to go or not? Well, let's know what you think.
And there's another story that compels attention this morning from the front page of this Nigeria Coyote. Anger in Anambra has abducted LP lawmaker found dead, I believe, on the Niger Bridge. That was a very disturbing story from Thursday. His decomposing body was found on the bridge. We hope that, security operatives, are reining on the situation, and not just in Anambra now, but in the entire southeast, such that these kinds of stories, are reduced significantly. And we hope that justice is brought in this particular story, served on the kidnappers and indeed in favor of the family of the deceased. May his soul rest in peace. We head over now to Nigerian Tribune newspapers this morning, and they also lead with that one also covered in other papers. MAN, that's the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, TUC, warn over proposed hike in electricity tariff. And there are two riders there that provide further insight into this. Planned increase may lead to closure of more businesses. That's ascribed to MAN. And, that's a no-brainer anyway, because in the industries, the manufacturers are already struggling beneath the weight of not just tariffs now, but also, the oil for the industries. That would be pump price of petrol and, of course, diesel. Ill-timed, deliberate act of economic oppression against Nigerians. That's ascribed to the TUC. And indeed, we heard the president of the TUC speaking yesterday on the proposed increase. There's another one here. NPA reviews port tariff by 15%. And this is coming after a very long time. But what does this mean, for an economy that is already struggling beneath the weight of economic policies, such as the floating of the naira and, removal of fuel subsidy? What does it mean for importation?
I'm worried that the drive for revenue is going to cause a lot of trouble for us. So Business Day is leading. 1 year T-bills attracts 3 trillion naira on high yield. So T-bills now for per annum goes as high as 23, 24, sometimes 25, 21%. So naturally, this is going to be a destination of choice for, people are investing in this instrument, this debt instrument being put out by the government. So you can also cash in by getting it. I've always told Bukola as well, just go get it. So Nigeria is borrowing money, but this is well structured. This is what, if you've ever thought government fails there, they don't fail on this one. They pay their debt. So, but it's costing us a lot in terms of interest and all of that. So that's how the Business Day leads. That's a major story on the Business Day. If you go to News Direct, same TUC manufacturers risks kicking, TUC and MAN kicking against proposed hike. Coyote.
Oh, take a look at Blueprints. Blueprints is next with this story that we talked about as well. Reps proposed Lagoon, New Kaduna, Etiti, not Ekiti, Etiti, Warri, 27 other new states. I see Ibadan State also made its way. By the way, a lot of people have been clamoring for these states already. So, yeah. Southwest tops with 7, North Central 6, Northwest, Southeast 5 each, Northeast, South 4 apiece. And just to give you this one, move beyond slogans for independence, Tinubu tells African leaders. I'll take it again for effect or for emphasis. Move beyond slogans for independence, Tinubu tells African leaders. So, yeah. He was speaking in a speech titled Africa in a Post-Idea World, but he was not the one speaking in person. He was represented by the Vice President Kashim Shettima at former Ekiti State Governor Coyote Fayeme's commemorative symposium. So yeah, we'll leave it there for the blueprint and just allow you to do your thing.
Kadia, your reaction says quite a lot, but we'll go to the Nigerian...
On the contrary, my reaction doesn't say anything.
I'll take your word for it.
Whatever the slogan is, you know, let's just get our acts together. We'll continue to say that African leaders have to show a sense of direction, leadership, and responsibility. And maybe we'll begin by them not cramping themselves and going for all these One Nation summits. They'll soon start this year. Just watch. Africa, China, Africa, Russia, Africa, UK, Africa, US, and all our leaders in Africa. And it's not as if we have
Arab.
And it's not as if we have like a stake on the table. It's more like, you know, most of the time, sometimes more like a charity case situation, or come and invest here. What are we sending down there? Let's learn how to negotiate differently. We have a lot of things here that we can do with them. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day.
I need to apologize to sports lovers.
Oh, really?
Yes, there's a sports story on the front page of Blueprint. Okay, so forgive me. And this is what it is: sports. Tayo Taiwo inducted into Marseille's Hall of Fame. You remember Tayo Taiwo?
Deserve it, yes. Very committed, very brutal defender with that, I think he's left-footed.
Yeah, that left shot.
Brilliant guy.
Am I forgiven now?
We need to do
okay. I hear that I've been forgiven.
There was no offense taking in the first place.
Okay, we'll take a quick break, guys. When we come back, we'll get to that very first conversation. It has to do with this incident of fire, whether it's in buildings, but especially road incidents, articulated vehicles, and all of that. But we'll also do maybe a stopover at what you're saying on X before we get to that conversation. Join us again.
Welcome back, and still we start off this morning with a very important conversation. This big concern is like, you know, a wicklow on the finger that has never recovered. So it's about the continuing fire incidents, you know, as a result of tanker spills over roads and all the other, you know, accidents that we experience on our roads. But before we have that conversation, we must touch on something else that is equally important, and Kadi has that.
Oh, definitely. Just before we get into the all-important conversation around fire, how to deal with emergencies, let's walk you through your responses. It's important to take that, and we're starting off with your reactions to the Reps Committee's proposal to create 31 more states. And I think we've talked about it a lot, so let's hear what you are saying about that. Simon P. is first. Who says more states might not be the answer. What's the question, Simon P? But let me go on. Streamlining into stronger regions, like Iberi suggested, could boost development and cut costs. Maybe fewer, more powerful entities are what Nigeria needs. So you need to get the context of this particular conversation, but the point this user is trying to make is streamlining into regions might be a better approach. Again, how will that work?
All right, Jenny Warifa says, why not just create 31 more countries? As absurd as saying that Africa should be split into 5 different continents. Simply devolve power from the central government in Abuja to states and local government and stop unnecessary division that goes nowhere.
And Dari Oluwajuiton says, the only reason this should be considered is if all states agree to no federal allocation and they have full resource control. Each state will eat from what it earns and pay all its officials from its own pocket. Well, interesting perspective there, but I just wonder how practical it would be, really.
Take a look at Mega Mix's comments. You think you've seen comments, but look at what Mega Mix has said. He said, why not create or make it 100? Or better still, convert the 774 local government areas to states. Mega Mixer, you got me there.
You know, people are just angry, like, what? We have issues to deal with states creation at this time.
You got me there.
Even if they give states the ability to run their own affairs, some states will still struggle. Anyway, Let's go to the next one.
I think you like the idea of Lagoon State.
Why are you so interested in this Lagoon State?
I'm just saying that.
You want to be a governor of Lagoon State? It sounds really fun.
And on the brighter side, some people who failed in their governorship ambitions can now try in the new states.
For Lagoon State,
yes,
right?
But no new Land Cruisers. So you use the vehicle you were using before.
We'll use, you know these buses that Governor Sanwo-Olu brought to Lagos? This 4-leg improved Keke Marwa. Korokwe. You know that one? That would be the standard.
The mini bus, the mini vans or whatever they call them.
Tint it for them, put some air conditioners.
No sirens.
No sirens. No, of course, Lagos, there's no siren.
Yeah.
And convert them all to CNG, such that we can have effective management of
I think we should draft conditions for creation. We should draft conditions for creation of states. So we'll give you the options. It's either you stay the way you are and manage as we're going, or we'll give you. But not to ridicule people who aspire for this thing. No, not at all.
No, sir.
We're just saying that right now, is that what we need? Anyway, let's go to what our sister, Kemi Badenoch, she's at it again. Okay, the leader of the Conservative Party in the UK, she's been blasting from all cylinders. But I think let's take a listen to what she says and what the reactions have been.
The way our immigration system works. So I'm announcing that the Conservative Party is going to do the following things differently. 1. If you want to stay in our country permanently and apply for indefinite leave to remain, the time you have to live here before you apply will increase from 5 years to 10 years. 2. You will have to be a net contributor with a high enough salary, especially if you want to bring family members with you. And if you've got a criminal record, you're banned. 3. If you've claimed benefits or need social housing, you can't even apply. 4. We will increase the time before you can apply for a British passport from 12 months to 5 years, meaning it will take a minimum of 15 years to start an application. 5. If you enter this country illegally or outstay your visa, you will be banned from ever gaining leave to remain or a passport.
You know why I like these kind of things? It gives you clarity as to the general election. So there's a posture of the Labour Party when it comes to immigration policies and all of this residency and application. Kemi Badenoch, who is the leader of the Conservative Party, perhaps the position of our party, this is what it is. So it gives you clarity as to I can like this policy or I hate this policy, and you now know what to vote.
I really don't see anything wrong in what she did. Some will say she's like baby Trump. You know, this is some of the things Trump, by extension, some people in his party also talked about. A lot of countries are getting stiffer when it comes to immigration. Hey, it's their country. I mean, you have the knife, you have the yam. How do Yorubas say it, right? So do whatever you want to do with it. And as a nation, Nigeria, we also make our decisions. I really don't think there's any big deal in all of this. I don't think anybody should be worried naturally if you're not affected.
I have some questions, Kari. How long, after she arrived in the UK, did she wait before she had to, she applied to become a citizen? I doubt that, she had to wait 15 years, in the reverse of what she's now proposing.
That's really her business, honestly. That doesn't really concern me. Whatever happened with her, great, she's in government now, even though it's still a proposal.
No, she's not in government, she's just in, okay, technically,
she is. So it's just a proposal, it's not law yet. But the point is, if the UK people say this is what they want.
Policy should have a human face.
Absolutely.
We should rethink the impact of some of these policies.
That's why I started with...
On families, on, every other aspect of life. So is it well thought out, or is it as a result of political undertones, such that you can be more acceptable to certain part of the political elite? So that those are issues. That's the question I'll ask.
Okay, there are many parts of it. That's why I started where I started from. So this is the position of the Conservative Party led by Kemi Badenoch. So if you don't like it, you live in the UK, you're planning to go to the UK, you have opportunity to vote in the UK, make sure you don't vote for Conservative Party if you don't like what she's saying. But if you like what she's saying, you vote for them. It's as simple as that.
A lot of people actually resonate with what she's saying there.
It's as simple as that.
So if it's their choice, if it's
their choice, it's their country. We just make our own must. In fact, they are doing 20, we should do 25.
Her name is 15, a strong reminder that she's an immigrant as well. So
Trump is an immigrant. So let's go to Kay.
Not an immigrant.
Let's start with the first.
Kay Mandela says it won't fly. The UK's economy will suffer greatly because it needs talent For example, no serious professional would choose the UK over other countries that offer a more lenient path to citizenship.
And Collins, as saying, says, my own is that. Well, that's a way of saying my own cover or my own view is that every Nigerian in any country should be ready. Let's all develop love for Nigeria again and look back. The world is going through a lot right now, and he goes on to say, so every country needs to cleanse itself to become better. Well, you can say that again.
So I think that is just a simple conclusion
to
of
balance
all of this. Not to balance. There's no balance here. You do what works for your country. I do what works for my country. Some will say, Trump keeps saying America first, but that's what it's always been. Even when you go to a negotiation table, you don't negotiate for the other person. You negotiate to favor you. So it is what it is. Let's fix our own and make sure that our own is what other people want to come to. And I think it's as simple as that. We can end.
And so in reaction to all of these African leaders, now they are chasing Africans out of their countries with all these policies. So it's time to sit back and not be attending these meetings again. Send representatives, stay home, fix our president.
Join via Zoom.
Yeah, join via Zoom. Our president has traveled 5 or 6 times.
Forex.
Stay at home.
We'll
fix
give you
your
good
country.
internet, 5G, you'll connect.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Trump is blowing hot. Kemi is not in government. She's already blowing hot. Everybody's blowing hot. Everybody's like, literally everybody's saying, look, you're a constitutional nuisance. We need to regulate you one way or the other. And then our leaders, let me not go there. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll get to that conversation about, let's begin with our homegrown conversation. Maybe we'll propose to them that if Kemi is saying 15 years, let's make it 25 before you can even apply for driver's license. I think we want to be tough. Let's all be tough together. Take a quick break, come back and talk about those fires. Join us again.
Welcome back. So time now to talk about that important subject matter, how to deal with emergencies and reining on the ever-increasing spate of accidents as a result of tanker spills and faulty food containers falling over and all the other related aspects of emergencies. So joining us this morning for this conversation is Mr. Ogenekaru Jockey. He's the Managing Director, Okama International Firefighting Oil and Gas. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning.
And so we'll be having other guests.
Correction, please.
Oh, pardon me.
My company name is Okama Infinity Nigeria Limited.
Okama Infinity, okay, but there was an Okama there.
Nigeria.
Thank you for the correction. So, there's so many sides to this conversation. We could talk about response, we could talk about awareness, but let's start with, the causes, of this fire, tankers falling over, containers falling over in the first place, which would be the compliance, or the part of regulatory agencies ensuring that they comply. What is your assessment, of the work of the regulatory agencies in this regard?
Well, I would say the work of the regulatory agency on this regards, they are trying, but I think they still need to do more. Most of our incidents that we are having on our highways is both ways. Most of the people mounting this truck, some of them are ill-experienced. They are not professionally trained to be a truck driver. In other developing countries and every other places, for you to mount a fire truck, a tanker, those are specialized driving skills. You need to go for additional training, which most of our drivers here in Nigeria, before they mount those trucks, are not trained for. So in any little thing, you see them panicking, if not for panicking, roads and all those, it can result to a lot of incident like the tanker flipping over.
Also, Mr. Jockey, let's go back a bit, because there is no guarantee that by tomorrow or the coming weeks we're not going to hear another incident. So it's almost like we're worried every other time as to why these things keep happening. And if there were just accidents that were happening and people were not dying, it's a different kettle of fish, but lives are involved here. So let's talk about where you started from, the drivers themselves. What level of skill is required in terms of basics of the basics? We can talk about the use of drugs and all of that maybe as we progress.
Yeah, for the drivers, you see, for the basic thing that for you to be a driver, a truck driver, at least you should be able to read and to write. You know, if you're able to read, you should know the signs of normal cautions for the driving test that they normally give you, the basic driving test. So for that experience, we need at least above someone with basic WAEC secondary school experience should be what they can, to be someone that's going to mount a truck, not just somebody who cannot read, cannot write, just go in and say, today you're a truck driver. Maybe somebody just say from motorboy, and the next thing you see him driving. If you go to places, even our, where we go for driving tests, I don't see us having those things that will put those people in place to say, okay, let's test them to know how they can drive. Let's test their system to know if they're on drugs. Because most of them, they're influenced of drugs because they just want to arrive to their destination and they want to speed and a lot of stuff. So a lot need to be put in place when you talk about our driving system, when you talk about this fire.
I believe they should also have an understanding of the kind of machines that they're mounting, the trucks. So who should take responsibility really for this training? Help us understand how they're recruited. Are they just recruited based on the basic knowledge of driving, or do the companies that employ them take responsibility for training and retraining them?
Like in Nigeria, like you see, the road safety is supposed to, and the VIOs are the ones supposed to mount our road to make sure that a lot of people who are mounting this truck are well educated. But you find out most cases that some of those people, they can get their driver's license without not going through the right appropriate channel. And with doing that, already you who is the one employed, the employers, they don't really check through to see how can we even know that this man that is claiming to be a truck driver actually qualified to be a truck driver. So anybody that just comes that I can do a truck, I can drive a truck, the next thing you see that person mounting the truck and it's on the highway driving. And at that point in time, anything that happened, our fate is on the hands of that driver who does not have experience when it comes about driving. So I think what we should do...
Mr. Jockey, are you saying that it's the VIO and the road safety that is supposed to take responsibility for training them or for ascertaining that indeed they can drive?
Yes.
So
yes. That you train them periodically, and also you who is the employer should make sure that whoever you're employing should be able to mount that truck, have the proper qualification or the proper training to be a truck driver or a tanker driver.
Mr. Jockey, just before we bring in our guest right here in our Lagos studio, I wanted you talked about qualification, but I think that right now what we're dealing with, the ones that are not exposed in terms of education, they are in the majority. So let's deal with what we have right now. How do we manage that first before we can talk about recruiting new ones?
I think basically what we need to do for now is to make sure that the ones that are already driving, who are there, the road safety, and should make sure that they go for periodically training, to train them more, to let them know how they should be able to mount their truck and to drive properly, to know the road signs, to know when they are not supposed to, if you are supposed to apply a rule, you're not supposed to drink and drive. A lot of this need to be, it's all about training, educate them. Even in their own local language, you can tell them, they will understand, and let them know that overspeeding and things like that, the normal basic rules of when driving. You know, don't drive when you are on bend, don't drive when it's raining, don't drive when the weather is foggy. All those things need to be, don't drive when you overload. Some of these tankers are meant to be carrying 33 liters of petrol. You see them loading 60,000 liters of petrol in their truck. And at that point, the capacity of the truck, anything that happens, the truck will flip. And once it flips, the next thing you see people scooping, and the next thing is fire. So those are the physical training that we need to give to them to let them know, number one, you must not overload your truck. Number 2, you must not speed. When you are overspeeding, it's not good. Number 3, you don't take alcohol or narcotics and go into this, mount the steering and say you want to drive.
All right, so the conversation is taking shape already, and Mr. Timothy Wagu, President, Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, ISPON, has since joined us right here in our Lagos studio. And when I say taking shape, issues are, emerging about the knowledge of these tanker drivers in the first place, who's responsible for training them. And the position being expressed by Mr. Jockey is that the road safety agencies, the VIO, vehicle inspection officers, should take responsibility for training them. I would have thought that, like other drivers of other vehicles who take responsibility for their own training, tanker drivers who would want to take up that profession should get trained first of all and then approach the agencies for certification. I wonder what your thoughts are on this. Do you agree with him that the safety agencies should take responsibility for their training?
I think it's about standards. The standards in that industry determines what the employee should do. An employee, especially when it comes to driving, is supposed to be a driver and then employed as a driver to perform the function of a driver. Now, if he is not a driver, a lot of them were not drivers when they started sitting in that trailer they are driving. So they just learned by observing one driver and automatically became drivers. Very few of them have license. So we're talking of standard. What is supposed to be the standard in that industry? You hardly see a road safety officer or a vehicle inspection officer ask a trailer driver of license. It's so bad. It's so bad that a trailer, a very big tipper, the 30 tons capacity, stopped somewhere very close to the governor's office in one of the southeast states. And it was early morning by 6 o'clock, and I was driving. Got to the point, and I said, that vehicle is not moving, it's stationary. And by the side, I saw a police officer armed, and I asked him, don't you think this can cause accident? No reflector, nothing, no sign that something is standing here. And it was still under obscurity before 6 o'clock. And he said, he asked me, he said, Oga, does a tipper have reflector in Nigeria? So the question now is, can the absurd become the standard? Can the unacceptable become the norm? So the drivers in the haulage industry, they are often not tested by their employers. Somebody brings them. Take this man, he's a driver, and he starts driving. Or this man has been a helper or a conductor to a driver for years. So now he can drive. And before you know it, somebody will ask him to move a heavy tonnage of goods, of liquid product, volatile organic material, to a distance. We're not talking of the brake efficiency of the vehicle. We're not talking of the overall mechanical state of the vehicle. Because when you are looking at a haulage truck, beyond the articulated trailers, these haulage trucks, like the last speaker was talking from online, if you look at it, somebody authorizes the importation, or at least somebody clears an imported tanker from the port. What's the standard? We're talking of standard. What is the standard now in the country? The asphalt on our road, what's the gauge, the thickness? Is it meant to carry such tonnage? Because we are seeing from 30 to 33,000 liters, 33,000 liters of PMS could be about 30 tons, because 30,000 liters of water is 30 tons, because water is the standard liquid. So this 33,000 seems now forgotten, and we are now going to 45,000. We are now going to 60,000. And when you have this load, you cannot hold your brake. You cannot control your brake.
I like where you're going to. So we're going to look at it from the mechanical and the human angle. I want to stay with the human angle. Laws are meant to regulate our activities. They say law is law, the lawless, and all of that. This is where we have law. So are you saying that there's a failure, a systemic failure here? That's why we have what we're dealing with today. Because for me, if it was just their goods and getting burnt and all of that, as much as that is regrettable, you can't compare it to human lives being lost. The level of measure that has been put in place for captains that fly planes and every other person, a doctor who treats patients, and those of us who are journalists, what we say that could blow up the country or unite the country, why can't the people in charge, what is stopping them from doing their job? Because people die. People have died. As we're speaking, people have died. So what else can we do to put fire to the feet of regulators to do their job? Because I don't expect these guys to be responsible, some of them.
Yes. From the humanitarian angle, lives lost in a very gory sight of human beings roasted. And if you ask me, these people were not, nobody went to their homes to set them on fire. Something brought them outside. They responded to something. And the mechanical state of the vehicle must be bad for the vehicle to even fall, the tanker truck. Then before you talk of the content being spilled, and before you talk of people going to scoop the spilled product. Now, we are looking at, you see, accidents. They have human factors, they have situational factors, they also have environmental factors. So if we look at why people are dying, we feel bad because it's human. We shouldn't just overlook that. But the systemic issue there is that information, sensitization, awareness building is at its lowest ebb by even government. I listened to senators in the House, in the Senate Committee on Information, talking about a very negligible amount of money being allocated to Ministry of Information. So we are looking at information, sensitization. We are looking at organizations like National Orientation Agency. What is the level of awareness in the public? Even in that haulage industry, how many of the trailer or tanker trucks have radio in their cabin for the drivers to even listen? Let's assume the media is putting out a whole lot of jingles. Are they even in position to listen? And then where they park the trailer, because when the man is involved in an accident and is a driver, something must have led to something. When we are doing root cause analysis, you may just find out that the trailer park or wherever they are parked, whether on the roadside or a well-designed place, the main goods, the main food, the main beverage you see there is alcohol. And so behavior of the driver is tied to his intake of substance. So there are a lot of things. Then the environment where they park these trucks, go and look around, you see defecation. So there are too many things we are trying to look at. You
know, Mr. Iwagu, it goes back to responsibility. And you said at the beginning of your commentary that sometimes these employers, you know, they take on a tanker driver without even ensuring that indeed in the first place the tanker driver has been certified, has knowledge of both driving and even of the vehicle, you know. And we can talk about also how the ownership of this tanker driver, this equipment, they're not spirits, they're not unknown. So are these people too powerful to be brought to book, to be prosecuted, to take responsibility for the loss of human lives amid these accidents? And I'm bringing this question to you, Mr. Jockey. Are these people too powerful? Are they too big, to be prosecuted? Those who employ these tanker drivers who do not take responsibility, who are not well trained, and who sometimes probably are driving under the influence.
They are not too big. Nobody's above the law in Nigeria. Like I would say, in about 5 years ago, the Federal Fire Service, the Road Safety, and I myself, because I deal with a product called the encapsulating agent, F500, and which is a very good product for combustible fire, for flammable liquid fires, which is the typical fire you see in the tanker and stuff. When I came in and met with the Controller General of the Federal Fire Service, Ministry of Interior then, the Minister, all of us, we flew, we went, we did good examination about this product to see how effective the product was. And after coming back, we said, no, it's need for sensitization for the tankers drivers and the tankers owner. They had their national convention in Ibadan. Then their national president was one, Olatidi was their national president. And the secretary then took pains, called all stakeholders, even the DPR was there and everybody. We were able to demonstrate how a encapsulator works, how it can encapsulate the product if there's a spill or in case of any emergency. And they encourage them. Normally you cannot force them to say you must buy this product. But they encourage them to say this is a good product for you to use in case of incident of any such or spill when you are discharging your fuel so that you can put this in use. So we did the training and they were all impressed with it. After that, we sold to some, and even the Joint Committee of the House of National Assembly and the DPRO stakeholder, Fire Service, Road Safety, we all came together to say, let's encourage them to that they can have a encapsulated agent in their vehicles, in their tank farm and stuff. After about 6 months or thereabout, they slowed down because the fire incident at that point in time dazzled down a bit, and before you know, they came back to their usual character of not even having any extinguishers at all. If they could even have a little extinguisher in their vehicle, maintain their vehicle properly, I think all this can be avoided. And they keep telling you they have insurance.
Let's come to you, Mr. Wago. Punitive measure, I'm going to stay with that part because if you're not reprimanded properly and sufficiently, bad character continues in terms of consequence for bad behavior. What is in the law right now, as far as these haulage drivers are concerned, when investigations are carried out and it shows that they are responsible for some of these accidents? What is in the law and what can be added? Perhaps maybe ban some people from driving forever if it's possible. I'm just thinking of very extreme cases. Because when these things happen, and it explodes, people die. I'm not talking about people going to scoop and get exploded. No, I mean driving through and some of these things happen, people die. Nobody holds anybody responsible sometimes.
And nobody holds anybody responsible because our enforcement system, the prosecutory system, and the judicial system, their functions are interwoven. The policeman apprehends. What does he do? You will see some police stations are like junkyards, trailer parks, accidented vehicles are kept there. And after some long time, somebody has settled himself and left, irrespective of what he did. 2 nights ago, I was driving, following a very large tanker, but it was not carrying products of petroleum. It was carrying wheat or grains from one of the industrial places in Apapa. And that was when I noticed that most of the bus stops, beautiful bus stops built by Lagos State, destroyed by some of these trucks. They just brush through. Yeah. And then I was saying, okay, if somebody arrests this one now, you may end up seeing him settle his way, paying somebody who has nothing to do with maintaining that infrastructure.
Is there a hopeless situation? I'm looking for solutions here.
The solution is that the whole thing will start from the policing of our environment. We have monitoring agencies. We have groups. They go around. You can imagine now we have people who monitor building and construction, yet we have building collapse. Almost one, at least one every day in Lagos, unreported. So many of them. So what you are seeing now is a very hopeless situation quite well, because the thing has eaten deep into both those who are supposed to be enforcing are not enforcing to safeguard society. They're enforcing to maybe get something out of it. So the watchdog needs to be watched if we must be very secure, and because the security of our society is tied to our attitude to laws and order, enforcement, prosecution. I have been in the court listening to a judge discuss about drivers and their issues. The judges are effective, but if somebody kills somebody with a cutlass, and at the end of the day, the policeman comes with an iron rod or a piece of wood as exhibit, as what the man used, whereas the medical report said the person's head was cut off with a sharp edge, and you are bringing a blunt rod, what do you expect the judge to say? The judge will start being a witness instead of a judge. So you see people go free because of the investigative and prosecutory processes.
Is this is it a question of complicity?
Yes, if you ask me, because there's no reason why a Nigerian who is knowledgeable enough, an adult, who is also given a responsibility of law enforcement and in an agency of government, will overlook that.
But in cases where, you know, death and destruction is evident, and we can trace the ownership of the company for whose tanker has spilled over and led to the death now. So where that is evident and, you know, it cannot be contested and that can be tendered in a court of law, what do the rule books say? Because Jeffrey's question is quite, you know, instructive. What do the rule books say about culpability of the employers in this case, and indeed the tanker drivers? Let's take that to Mr. Jockey now.
Okay.
In 60 seconds.
Yeah, you hold, even if you hold that person responsible to say, okay, you are guilty, charged, whatever, will that bring back the life and loss of properties the person have destroyed? I think what we should say in this case, we should encourage our tanker drivers to really go for training, and we encourage them to go. If you go to the Federal Fire Academy today, they are doing a great work. The current minister is doing a great work, putting a lot of resources, and the Controller General of the Federal Fire Service. I think we should encourage these people to go for a proper training before mounting truck, so that we can save life and humanity. Because the destruction is too much. Every day or every other day, we must have a tanker fall, and there's one fire or the other concerning this fire tanker.
All right.
So we must really encourage them to really go back to the drawing board, encourage the owner to send their drivers back to the fire training school, and so they can get a proper training for you to man that vehicle. Because if the life is gone, it's gone. We're not talking about the content of the product. We're talking about human life, human properties. Billions of naira you lose every day because of negligence of one crazy tanker driver.
By all means, a very productive conversation, and we must thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time on the program. We've been talking with Mr. Ogenekaro Jockey, the Managing Director of Okama Oil and Gas, who joined us from our Abuja studio. And we also have Mr. Timothy Wagu, President, Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, ISPON, who joined us here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you.
And so we move on to another conversation this morning that is just as important for you. This time it's about your health and the efforts of the regulatory agency to rein in on fake and substandard goods. Stay with us for that conversation. We'll be right back.
This is a journey we've been on almost forever in this country, from successive DGs of NAFDAC. Well, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye joined us on the program this morning. She is the Director General of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC. Good morning, Prof. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. Good to be here.
You know, we talk about the war against banditry, terrorism, and all of that. And that, yes, that is very important, but this is also a very important war against fake drugs, ensuring that people are safe, because a fake drug is almost as potent as a bullet, really, can end anyone's life. You've been at the helm for quite some time right now, and I know that it's not an easy job. It's almost like they say, fighting corruption. Corruption fights back as well. So at this stage of your career, would you say you are in prime position to have achieved all the things you set out to achieve, Prof?
Thank you so much for inviting me to this meeting. But in terms of fake drugs or substandard falsified medicines, the realization was there before I joined NAFDAC. On my first day in NAFDAC, during my resumption speech, I made mention of a child of a friend. We were both in the US, but they came to Nigeria and the child fell ill. And the child was taken to UNTH Enugu. The child almost died. The child almost died because of bad medicine. This was 2016, 15, thereabout. So I referred to that in my resumption speech. The child almost died because a bad medicine was being used unknowingly. It was when that realization came that they changed the medicine, and of course, the child got better. He's now 20-something year old, you know. So I was not idealistic when I joined NAFDAC, but what I did not realize was the depravity in terms of the greediness of our people. Our people meaning those who knowingly falsify medicines. The depravity in terms of neglect of the cost of life. But when I joined NAFDAC again, there was nothing, tools. There were no tools to do what we were supposed to do. Talking of substandard falsified medicine or fake food or unwholesome food, you need vehicles. First of all, you need mindsets. You need people's mindset to change from within the agency and, of course, from outside. Then you need tools, vehicles to do inspection, laboratory to test the medicine, computers, 2017. This was not Stone Age. This was 7 years ago. There was nothing. There was nothing, rather. Nothing. We were in debt, 3.7 billion naira. 3.2 actually, then 500 million that were spent within 2 months before I resumed. So when you look at all this, You say, okay, we are going on a journey. What are we going to use to go from point A to point B? So you just don't fight with emotion. You fight with intelligence, with education. But you know, we started and we have been very successful in terms of mindset, because you cannot have a negative mindset and say you want to have a positive outcome. We started training our people from within. How do you put customers first in whatever you are doing, whether you are an inspector, a laboratory scientist, or an accountant or human resource? What do you, when you are doing your job, do you have empathy? Do you think of the customer? We did that training, quality management system, for 1 year. Actually 1.5 years. Then we got certified. Our attitude started changing, and I'm talking of within the agency. So our attitude started changing. We started thinking more of the customer.
Just a moment, Prof. Quite impressive, some of the things you've mentioned in terms of the attitudinal change from within the agency. But let's take it outside the agency to see how do you assess success, at least some level of average success, when it comes to combating whether it's substandard or fake drugs. What's your assessment? How do you measure that I have done a good job as the DG of NAFDAC to protect the lives of Nigerians who are susceptible to some of this mischievous element?
Thank you. You know, I don't like to think in an idealistic way, because I could have easily told you that, yes, we have a national survey. In fact, we have national action plan for mitigating substandard falsified medicine. You have to prevent, you have to detect, and you have to respond. It is a WHO scheme to prevent substandard falsified medicine or unwholesome food, for that matter. What did we do to prevent? We started doing sensitization, but you cannot be doing sensitization without change of mind of the people that are doing sensitization. You cannot. The attitudinal change is important. Then we have to set milestones for ourselves. So prevention includes making sure that our companies are sensitized enough, those local, those are the ones that are in Nigeria, and the ones in the outside the country. We have more than 70 or 80% of our products coming from outside the country at that point. So to prevent, we started overhauling some of the things that have been there. One is pre-shipment testing. When products are approved in Nigeria and they are going to be imported, we made sure we actually went to India and China. It was a 1 and maybe 10 days trip with my staff to read them Riot Act that you want to trade with us, then you have to value the lives of our people. I'm just giving an example. There are so many ways of preventing. So we went to labs to really know that what they are going to do, if they are going to do testing, then the lab must have equipment. Then what is called the clean report inspection analyst in India and China, we told them that you have to make sure you monitor these laboratories that we have already certified now. So that is one method of preventing. Another method of preventing, of course, is post-marketing surveillance, constant post-marketing surveillance. So the products have come into the country, or it is local, they are now in the market. We do a lot of post-marketing surveillance across the country. 2019, we started the annual survey. We use scientific means to take samples from across the country, not just go to one spot and take samples and say this is the prevalence of substandard falsified medicines. Since 2019, we have been documenting the prevalence of substandard falsified medicines in Nigeria. Before my time, they said it was, I was told that it was 17% prevalence. Now we have about 10%.
All right, Prof.
And I'm talking average. I'm talking of average, yes.
All right, Prof. Let's talk a bit more about surveillance now, and specifically about the capacity of NAFDAC to respond. A 2023 report quoted that NAFDAC has only 2,000 staff saddled with the monitoring of 58,020 registered products post-market surveillance. And I believe that we had this conversation with the Minister of Health, I believe last year, for which there were promises and resolutions that the capacity of NAFDAC would be increased. So this is 2025 now. What can you report to us in terms of the backing up with action now by the federal government of increased recruitment for NAFDAC, such that the agency can better respond throughout the country to tackling the menace of fake drugs and other substandard goods?
Thank you so much. That is part of prevention. I mentioned prevent, detect, and respond. That is part of prevention. I was talking to somebody yesterday that for every NAFDAC staff, we have 119,000 Nigerians to take care of. One staff to about 120,000. To do surveillance, we cannot just bring somebody from the street, go and help us. No, we have to have trained people. But we don't. We have 2,000 for 238 million people. 2,000 for 238 million people. That doesn't mean we're going to have 20,000 people overnight. No. But if we can double our staff as we speak, we will have better response. The minister said that we are working now with head of service to add more staff to NAFDAC. Our population is large. Our population, a lot of our population don't even understand the difference between substandard and fake and good medicine. So you are right on the point in terms of staffing. But I like to approach issues from whatever we have right now. But in terms of staffing, we are short-staffed. Many of us do the job of 5 people. Each person doing the job of 5 people. We are stretched in terms of our own quality of life, you know, because we don't have time to do a lot of things outside working. So when it comes to staffing, you are right on the point. We are short-staffed, and I'm hoping that things will be better.
Certainly, I know that there was a lot of talk about funding NAFDAC as well, the National Assembly looking through the budget allocations. But there was another conversation that came up on the floor of the House of Reps, and that's stricter punishment for those found culpable. Some even went as far as saying perhaps death penalty. Is that something you're supporting as well? Stricter penalties for those who are found culpable to the extent of maybe death, capital punishment?
It's good you are bringing all these things up. You cannot fight substandard falsified medicine in isolation. The agency can do as much as they can, but if there is no deterrent, there's going to be a problem. Okay, somebody brought in tramadol that can kill, 225 milligrams that can kill anybody, fry the brain, and you give a judgment of 5 years in prison or 250,000 naira. Who doesn't know that that person will go to the ATM and get 250,000 naira? That is part of our problem. There is no strict measures to deter from repeating the same thing. But we can do as much as we can, but if our law is not strong enough or the judiciary is not strong enough to stand up, we're going to have a problem. We have open markets in Nigeria. Kano, Aba, Onitsha, and Lagos. Before my time, there was a plan to remove the open market to what is called coordinated wholesale centers, where NAFDAC will be there, police will be there, Pharmacy Council of Nigeria will be there to monitor. Kano was the first in the country to do that. They built this giant mall, Kanawa Coordinated Wholesale Center. We had over 150 forces to move them because they refused to move. And they've taken Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, our sister agency that regulates the practice and the practice sites. They took them to court for 10 years. Pharmacy Council of Nigeria couldn't do anything because it was in court. Finally, we had this judge, Judge Ameboda, who said enough is enough and said they must go to coordinated wholesale center. Okay, now they are coordinated wholesale center. We started monitoring. Somebody bought a children's medicine for 13,000 naira or something like that, or is selling for 13,000 naira. Another person was selling about 3,000 naira in the same mall. That raised an alarm. Guess what? There was nothing inside that medicine when we tested it in our Kaduna lab. So, I want death penalty. Because you don't need to put a gun on the head of a child before you kill that child. You do not need to put a gun on the head of a child before you kill that child. Just give that child bad medicine. I'm hoping that judges are listening to me. You don't need to kill a child because the child cannot complain. Oh, this medicine doesn't work. It will just be, slipping away and die. So our judiciary system must be strong enough. But we are working with National Assembly to make our penalties very stiff. But if you kill a child by bad medicine, you deserve to die.
All right, Prof.
That is how stand I am. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just the story you just told us is just, we're just shocked. I'm sure you've seen this time and again. And I'm wondering what can be done to make you even more efficient. I'm looking at the financial exposure you have for the 2025 budget. In my view, it looks small. 11.6 billion naira. That's what I'm looking at right now. And 11 billion of that amount is going to personnel. Capital expenditure is about 650 million. So what exactly is left to do any work? In your view, when it comes to review, for you to be able to do this work more efficiently, what will it be? I mean, just like you've been specific in terms of punitive measure for people who kill children with bad drug, what is the actual proposal you would think you should put out to give you more money, in terms of more money, to be able to do this work better? And do you have prosecutor, can you prosecute as NAFDAC?
Yes, we have a very strong legal department. We can prosecute, we can seize properties, and of course the proceeds will go to the government. Yes, we can, but it is money that is needed. It is money that is needed. You use money to do all the fighting against substandard falsified medicine. It's good that you brought up the issue of 11 point something billion being allocated to us. If the government understands that what a regulatory agency does is 24/7 to safeguard the health of you and me, our people, I believe They will leave NAFDAC alone and let NAFDAC manage the income that they are having, but still pay for our salary. We have what is called user fees. These are fees that are paid to do X, Y, Z, from laboratory testing to safety monitoring to post-marketing surveillance to enforcement. And it is standard all over the world that regulatory agencies have what is called user fee. It is money that should not be touched.
Right.
That money has been touched for the last 7 years that I've been here.
Well, these are major talking points, certainly, and we're glad we're able to raise these issues. If you really want to fight this battle, then we must put our money where our mouth is. Just quickly, a lady was trending online recently. I said she got into trouble for calling it drugs instead of medication. I hope that's not the case in Nigeria. You can call it drugs and not be in trouble.
Drugs are drugs. Drugs are medicines.
Okay.
But in Nigeria, people think that drugs are the bad part of medicine. Drugs are drugs. Illicit drugs are illicit drugs. Drugs that you're not supposed to use unless prescribed. And that is what NDLEA goes after. Illicit drugs. We deal with drugs every day. Drugs make you well. Drugs make you, just name it. So drugs are medicines. There's no difference between the two. But illicit, of course, is illicit.
Thank you, Ma.
We deal with illicit drugs.
Thank you for that clarification. We're in a unique environment now where anything that you say online, could get you into trouble, and you have to be very responsible. But just before we let you go, ma'am, if you had the opportunity to advocate for an increase in the budget for the agency, NAFDAC, what would it be?
It is...
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. The user fees that I mentioned, it is for the government, aside from paying our salary, it is for the government to match that user fee. For example, government pays 11 billion like this year for salary. We bring in user fees of 10 billion. The government should add another 10 billion to it, so that we can go after bad medicine, bad food, so that you and I can be healthier, so that we can trade. We want quality medicine, quality food, but it's not just there. It's not just that alone. It is to use that, to trade that medicine internationally.
Right.
Part of my goal is trade. But you cannot trade when the medicines don't have quality. And you cannot have quality if you don't have international standards. To have international standards, you have to have all the tools: prevent, detect, and respond. So it is matching our user fees that is not supposed to be touched, matching it naira for naira. At that point, things will start working better.
Well, Prof, it's a very tricky balance. There's a regulation bit, and you also have to foster innovation and the rest. But we have to thank you so much. It's everyone's fight, really. So all hands must be on deck. We've been speaking with the Director General of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC. She's been there for, if I'm correct now, Prof, 8 years now, since 2017.
Yeah, almost 8 years.
Almost 8 years.
Going 8 years. Yes.
Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right.
Have a nice day. Thank you.
Well, it's a fight we'll keep on with. But we'll take a moment now. When we return, let's talk about your gadgets, okay? And Jeffrey is taking that on in a moment. Stay with us.
All right, welcome back. Let's now talk about your PCs, your device, and everything that has to do with gadgets. We're being joined in the program by a tech advisor. Aki Bitoye joins us right here in our studios. Aki, today we're talking about public Wi-Fi. Let me say it in Nigeria, we will show free at the airports, at some universities, and all of that. So the big question: convenience, security. What should we be looking at?
Thank you, Jeff. You took the words out of my mouth. We like free stuff. We're human beings. But very importantly, sometimes you just, for the Globetrotters, you get to a new location and there's no data, you can't roam, so you need to just quickly connect to the internet, you use free Wi-Fi. So yes, it's convenient, however, malicious actors can put up Wi-Fi connection for you to access the internet, but they would be at the back end and they can see all your transactions or all of the communications you are doing on the internet. So the gist this morning is you need to just put a bit of security in place to protect yourself. Yes, you can use the free Wi-Fi, but you should put gateways in place to protect yourself, your data.
Let's get to those gateways. I'm sure they're going to put it up for us in just a moment. So let's get to the first one.
Okay, so the first thing you want to note is there's something called virtual private networks, VPNs. We've heard about it in recent times, especially in Nigeria. VPNs are just virtual private networks that protect, encrypt your information. So whatever activities you are doing on the internet or doing online, it encrypts it so a third party cannot snoop and see what is going on. What you would realize is when you go on the free Wi-Fi, sometimes they will tell you you have 1 hour, you have 30 minutes, you have certain download limits. However, all the information you are sending, all the passwords you are typing, the emails you are checking, everything is being transferred through packets. That's geek speak. But those information can be spoofed, can be tracked, can be pooped. Somebody can look at what you're doing. VPNs would encrypt that data, and you should take cognizance of that. What you should do is install VPN on your phone, on your laptop, so anywhere you are, even if somebody is sharing a hotspot, you should put on the VPN once you connect to the Wi-Fi. Okay. It saves you a lot of hassles.
Okay, let's go to the next one that has to do with this one. I saw the fake hotspots. I would like you to speak to that particular item.
So, you know, when you scan for Wi-Fi connections on your laptop, on your phones, you will just see a long list depending on where you are.
Even within your house.
Exactly, yeah. You see. So some of them are not actually internet connections. They are Wi-Fi connections, all right. They are hotspots, which just means your device sees it as a Wi-Fi connection. When you connect to it, you are not connected to the internet. You are connected to whatever platform set that thing up. And of course, usually somebody is trying to get your data. Somebody is trying to get your information. For a media personality as yourself, Kayode, Bukola, you are well known. So if somebody knows that you are trying to connect to the internet, they can put up something like that, and you connect. Oh, you just need Wi-Fi. Please don't connect to free hotspot.
I don't do
just
free.
Use a VPN.
I avoid it as much as possible.
It's very important. So malicious actors can inject malware to your devices. They can put up virus apps installed on your devices without your consent. That's one of the downsides or the drawbacks of connecting to free Wi-Fi.
Installing on your device
without your consent, yes.
And they use that to monitor your activities.
That's the goal. There's no reason for anybody to put
that sounds like what Yahoo boys do.
Sir?
Sounds like what Yahoo boys do.
So protecting your PC using a VPN, as I mentioned earlier. Secondly, disable file sharing. Disable file sharing. You know, most times we you want to send the file to someone, you just transfer it out through any of these. Thank you. So these file sharing are turned on for some of our devices. You should turn them off, especially if you are connecting to networks that you do not know.
Okay.
Because people with the technical ability can enter your computer, copy whatever they need, and go out. Yes. Wow. You should avoid sensitive accounts. When you're a public Wi-Fi, please do not log into your bank accounts. Even if you need money, do not log into your bank account.
So if that's the only option, what do you do?
Use a VPN. That was why I started with. The VPN creates a gateway and encrypts whatever it is you're doing, so you're safe.
So perhaps we'll go to that place where we have protecting your PC.
Protecting your PC, yes.
So we'll run through all of these VPN, sensitive accounts, and all of the lists.
The disable file sharing. You know, at the beginning, in the early days of the internet, when you want to enter a website, you just enter www.whatever.com, and the website usually is HTTP. So hypertext transfer protocols, geeky speak. However, if you want to do sensitive transactions, your bank or any of your other sensitive, you should have HTTPS. What the S stands for is security.
Oh, really?
It's a security certificate. So what it does is it encrypts whatever it is you're doing. You know, when you want to log in, you type your username, then you type your password. Once you click login, it sends that information to the server. to confirm that, oh, this person wants to log in. Is this the correct username? Is this the correct password? It says yes. Okay, you can allow him enter. That's what the security layer does. So if you want to use any website, please pay attention to the address. I say this as a rule of thumb. When you are looking for a website and you don't know the name, do not click the link directly from Google. If you search Google, search Yahoo, search any of these search engines, do not click from Google search. Most of them are adverts.
Oh.
And they might not lead you to the real website.
So where do you go to?
You type the website. You see the website, then you type the website. Okay. That is one way to go. Lastly, please turn off your Wi-Fi if you're not using it.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a good one. See, now that data is even expensive, that they are trying to hike everything.
Data is cheaper now.
Oh, really?
You are
telcos are...
No, but when you compare it in the mid-2000s, 100 megabytes was that 1,000 naira back then. So data is cheaper now. Do you
understand? Okay. Well, thank you. Aki Bitoye, you have one more thing to say?
No, that would be all.
Okay.
Please, security is what you want to take for yourself.
Aki Bitoye is a tech advisor, bringing us up to speed with the things that happen as far as the world of technology. So for those of you who like public Wi-Fi, I think a word is enough. Take note. Thank you so much. But we'll now trade to Bukola, who is standing by to bring us up to speed with the next segment. Bukola, I hope you don't use public Wi-Fi, by the way.
Well, I try as much as possible to keep my data, continuously subscribed so that I don't have to be dependent on public Wi-Fi. If it's available, fine. If it's not, I'm also fine.
That's why we're paying big salaries to make sure.
Really, Jeffrey. Okay, so from making good use of public Wi-Fi and making your devices effective for your communication needs anywhere you go, we're moving to another aspect of the conversation. And this time around, it's about building resilient cities on the African continent. And this is an interesting conversation, as far as I am concerned. So joining us to have this one is Ms. Diana Mitlin. She's a professor of global urbanism in the Global Development Institute, University of Manchester, principal researcher, International Institute for Environment and Development. She's also the CEO, African Cities Research Consortium, Lagos Studio. Mrs. Mitlin, thank you so much and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
And I was looking at the index of the global most livable cities in the world, and in the top 10 consistently for the past 3 years, there is no African city that has featured on that top 10 list. Vienna consistently retains the top position. What can we learn, first of all, from those cities before we begin to look at your work for building resilient cities in Africa?
That's a really interesting challenge. I think one of the things that Vienna is considered to have got right is the fact that it has affordable housing. And one of the big things that makes a livable city is a city in which all of its residents can engage with the things they need to bring up their families in a healthy condition and to have opportunities. So Vienna is considered to have really scored because it's invested in housing that creates opportunities for all of its residents.
So what are the indexes that Africa needs to focus more, in order to raise its, its ability to meet the benchmark of being amongst the livable cities?
I think that's a challenge because indices often are inevitably summaries. They're designed to catch the public imagination. They're designed to feature on the pages of newspapers, web pages, and in TVs. They may not be related to the quality of life that all citizens face in their urban experience. I think one of the things that we're very conscious of, I say we because the African Cities Research Consortium is very much a partnership with amazing teams in cities across Africa. One of the things we're very conscious of is that large numbers of Africa's residents living in formal settlements. And an estimated 56% of Africa's urban residents live in informal settlements. What does that mean? It means they lack secure tenure. Many of them are tenants living under landowners that lack secure tenure. They may struggle to get access to water, to sanitation, to power, the kind of things that hopefully you manage to secure most of the time, and I certainly do living in Manchester. that creates all kinds of problems, not least when they do get them, they're frequently paying a poverty penalty. That is because they have low incomes, because they're not connected to public services, they pay more than others would pay. And that obviously creates a real challenge for them in improving their development options.
And I believe that this speaks to some of the policy interventions that African governments are providing to ensure that they raise the income level, the middle class level to higher class level that will enable them to afford all of these things. So what are the recommendations? I wonder if this is in line with your findings at your institute, and if it is, you can shed light on some more work of your research. But what are the interventions that the institute is recommending to solve some of these challenges?
I think in the first instance, we'd be very nervous to sit in Manchester and give recommendations to African local governments, national governments, and indeed African experts. The reason I'm here, the African Cities Research Consortium, is very much a network of agencies working across Africa. We started in 12 cities, and we're now focused on 5 cities, where we're moving from a research phase to really identify and analyze problems to looking at solutions. So we've just started that implementation phase. We're working in 5 cities. Lagos is one of them. Also Accra, Harare, Nairobi, and Kampala. And I think for us, a starting point is to make sure the right people are in the room, agreeing the problems and considering alternative solutions. So who are those right people? I think we are, not surprisingly, as an academic institution, working with academics. We're really conscious that there are, in all those cities, academics who've really dedicated themselves to thinking about the challenges of urbanization and ways forward. In the context of Lagos, we're working closely with the Center for Housing and Sustainable Development at UNILAG, at the University of Lagos. So they're a key group that needs to be in the room. Local government also need to be in the room. They understand their problems. In my experience, they're individuals, groups of individuals who really want to find a way to move forward. Critical are private sector agencies, of course, who are investors, and of course civil society agencies and NGOs. I think what we also recognize, based on some of my previous experience, but resonating with the groups in these cities, is that the residents themselves, communities, are critical parties to bring into the picture. Those individuals obviously try and address the needs of themselves and their families. I've yet to go into an informal settlement and not find some kind of organization. Those organizations often face considerable adversity, as I mentioned, but they generally have ideas, solutions that they want to bring forward. What we're really trying to do is to merge the knowledge of all those groups, but also not think in an isolated fashion about what might make one neighborhood resilient, but really think what's going to address the problems citywide. How can people work together to develop new solutions? And I think what our experience has suggested to us is those new solutions are generally somewhere in the room, but they need to be articulated, they need to be tested, they need to be brought into play. So if I might just elaborate briefly on one example. In the city of Nairobi, before we began our work, there was a consortium that came together, mainly local agencies, 40 plus, working with the Nairobi City County Government and a couple of NGOs, the Akiba Mashinani Trust and SDI Kenya. SDI stands for Slum Dwellers International. It's an international network of people living in informal settlements. And that group decided to make one large informal settlement, 100,000 plus families, Mukuru, a special planning area. That enabled them to just hold to one side the regulations and really work out what could progress access to drainage, roads, water, sanitation, and also improved housing.
So you talked about the organizations facing adversity. Is it a norm, is it a pattern in all of the countries that you've worked in, and why do they face adversity? Is it that they're resistant to change, or they're suspicious of the interventions that they're bringing to help them develop their own cities?
That's a really interesting question. I think that there are a multitude of factors. Sometimes it's they're not used to working together, and that has not been legitimated, and academics often play an important convening role. For example, I was at the beginning of the week in Maiduguri, in the northeast of Nigeria, my first time in Maiduguri.
Congratulations. It's a great place to be.
It's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
And one of the projects that's emerged from our work there has really been supported by His Royal Highness the Shehu of Borno. So, and I had the pleasure to meet with him. And it's clear to me from talking to the groups that his willingness to draw in some of the customary leaders has been important in progressing land titling, in moving from a traditional form of land titling into a statutory form of land titling. So in that case, colleagues at the University of Maiduguri are working closely with the customary leaders. They're also working with the Borno Geographic Information Service, who have responsibility for titling, but who focused on the formal areas. But it's clear informal areas also face insecurity of tenure. And so they're really innovating. I think one of the interesting things has been the creation of a volunteer role in the community that can help would-be landowners, people who want to get the statutory title, to progress through the system. One of the most inspiring conversations I had there was with a group of women, about 40 women in one of the neighborhoods in which they're working. And they were explaining to me about their eagerness to get improved tenure security, about their hesitation previously. The process was very formal. They weren't sure of the cost, and it was expensive. But there's been a negotiation that's brought the price down, and having this volunteer, having this person in the neighborhood who can help them complete the forms, has immediately allowed some of them to move forward. So we have a situation there in which the key parties were all motivated to change, but it required a little bit of strategic thinking with everyone to work out how to do it.
Beautiful, and I get your point. You're helping cities to take more ownership of the process of helping them attain resilience. But there's also that part of government intervention to balance the act, to provide all of the infrastructure that they require to become more resilient and indeed inclusive. But we thank you for your work in these communities across Africa. I've been talking with Mrs. Diana Mitlin. She's a professor of global urbanism in the Global Development Institute, University of Manchester, and principal researcher, International Institute for Environment and Development. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And from here, we head out to another equally interesting talking point. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Young man, I'm looking for one Akwa Ibom man. Your meaning of use Calabar?
It's supposed to feature you of crime fighter.
I'm looking for one Love the Hotel.
Oh, it ain't near Yam office. You know Yam office?
Yeah! How do I get there?
See, you just reach that, relax. Reach this junction now, Once you pass this junction, go to the second junction. Pass up. You go to the third junction. Pass up.
Of the junctions now, you are just
that organo pray on me.
Continue.
Pass that third junction. From there, you jump back.
Child.
Hey.
The Lord has done it finally. Finally.
Well, we're joined by Daniel Madu. Well, you know him as MC Medikal. He joins us live from Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Welcome to the Morning Brief, MC Medikal. Well, if it's not Calabar people, it's Akwa Ibom people, is Ijaw people, is Bini people. It looks like you have a package for everybody in this country. And it's quite interesting how you're able to draw those peculiarities and make it into comedy. It's who we are, actually, and people laugh. But do some people frown at you and say, this thing touched me, or this thing attacked me personally? MC Medikal, I will get you.
Yes. I think, well, at the initial stage, I faced a lot of resistance, especially from the Hausa tribe. But I kept on doing it, and later they got to discover that it was not out of mockery or hatred, especially when I diverted to other tribes and others. So it became clear to them that, oh, he's just doing it for the fun one, and also to show their way of life. So they accepted it.
Beautiful.
So
sorry, go on. You can land on that point.
Okay, and I think the Hausa were the major people to have resented this thing at the beginning. But now, funny enough, my major fan base comes from the north.
And that's what humor does, really. And we have to commend you for doing that. Somehow you're able to unite the nation and help us just laugh at what we had always thought was some sort of flaw. But it's who we are, right? Just like the French has a way of pronouncing the R and the rest. But I'm quite interested in your personal story, right? How did this happen for you? For some people, it was unemployment that drove them to content creation. For some people, it was other things. But what's your personal story?
Okay, well, I will not say it was poverty or whatnot. I didn't actually come from a wealthy background, but I think we are okay, at least. I started my comedy career when I gained admission to study theater art. I think that was 2008. Yeah, so I fell in love with entertainment. Okay, growing up, I always watched Night of 1,000 Laughs, so I was always a diehard fan of comedy, of entertainment. So when I gained admission into University of Benin, theater art, then before I switched to law, I was doing the background work, the process. Then I also went through some persons who I took as mentors in the business. So, and I developed interest. I said, okay, this is what I can do, and I started it. And here we are today.
Are you a legal practitioner, just to be sure, or is it character?
Yes, I'm a lawyer.
Just to put it out there, he's a lawyer, so it's not condition, and it just shows your versatility. By the way, we're going to end this conversation with you giving the different states or tribes their own little portion this morning. But I'd like you to speak to us about how lucrative this has been, because that's also something we talk about. And when we say lucrative, it's not just always money. It's about the impact you're able to make, the lives you're able to transform. So for you, how fulfilling and lucrative has this been for you, money-wise and non-monetary-wise?
Okay, I think it has been something to look back to and be proud, honestly, because take for example the elections, based on 1 or 2 influence we gather by way of content and all that, we are able to lend our voice to the masses, and by reason of that, we're able to impact the society. For example, the presidential election, myself and some other of my content creators on this side, we came out together. We supported our candidate, and things went the way they were. So, apart from money, it gives us that little influence. We are able to speak on behalf of the people. We are able to share our thoughts. We are able to share our ideas. So, money is one part. I will not lie. I will not deny it. But the influence is something that I cannot remove my mind from. And apart from that, every other aspect of life, I would say the thing has helped me. I naturally was a very shy person growing up, but very shy. Yes, I remember then in secondary school, I couldn't even face the audience to ask questions or to answer. So I've always naturally suffered in silence.
And here you are facing millions of Nigerians. It's amazing, and this is motivation for a lot of people. We have to we wouldn't have this conversation without you doing your favorite impressions for us. I don't know which one you are going to choose, but I have my favorite personally, but I don't want to deprive people. What's your favorite impression? Or maybe 3 favorite impressions that you have. Just let's do that as we wind down.
Okay, I think I'll start with my favorite people from Kogi talking about the galas. You know me, I'm a civil servant. And as a civil servant, I've been in this association for the past 14 years. I'm an Arsenal fan. I could support Arsenal since 2019. Then I now opened my bank with Zenith. I opened Zenith Bank somewhere around Juba in Abuja.
It's so funny. This is actually the reality. Some say it's a bit extreme, but we have to commend you for what you're doing, being able to bring out these issues and make us laugh. We've been speaking with legal practitioner. You should know this. He's also a legal practitioner. He's content creator, comedian. You are an MC as well. Daniel Madu, MC Medikal. That's what we know him as. Thank you for your time, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I always like to be a Nigerian.
Yeah.
Because of guys like this. I want to thank you for your time and company. Happy, is it done? Have a great weekend. Yeah, Nigerians like happy everything.
Yeah,
I'm Jeffrey Zogo.
MC Medikal, thank you for giving us the impression of Jeffrey's people. God bless you for that.
I'm very proud. I'm very proud to be a Quavo.
We'll be back on Monday. I'm Bukola Koka.
And I'm Kyle Sunrise Daily is next. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.